So welcome and thanks for joining us. My name is Karen Corman, and I have the privilege of being the Executive Director of the UIC Alumni Association. Welcome to the UIC Alumni Exchange Series. Each week, we work to bring you a variety of programs and topics so you can explore, connect, and even escape from the everyday with a community of UIC alumni, faculty, and staff experts. You'll hear me say this a few times today, but I encourage you to visit go.uic.edu/alumni exchange for the latest and greatest programming. And with that, I'm excited to start our program this afternoon with two-time UIC alumna Deb Venable as she leads us through an interactive discussion, The Keys to the Virtual Connection. She will explore ways how to truly build relationships and to better connect with others, whether that is clients, your organization's leadership, or your sales team in this new and distance environment. Thank you so much, Deb, for being with us here today, and I'll turn it over to you to begin the program.
Thank you very much. So yes, I am Deb Venable, and I'm really honored to be here today. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I know that Karen already kind of introduced me, but yes, I've been an entrepreneur for 27 years thanks to my skills that I learned at UIC. I was in the event industry for 25 years, and by the skin of my teeth got out of that industry about 2 years ago, and then started up a new business doing sales coaching and training and kind of strategy work with clients. So I do have my undergrad and a BFA in industrial design. So that's when I was designing trade show exhibits. And then also have my MBA, which is where I met my husband. And I was going to show you a quick picture. This is my husband and I back in 2003, I think we just got discovered, when we were honored to light the flame, light the torch, be the torch bearers. So I have a lot of history with UIC, was an RA, was part of the Alumni Association then and now, and just really cannot say enough that I do think the scrappy kind of go-getting attitude that UIC alumni have really did help me, kind of catapult into my future. And so I'm really proud to be a UIC alum. I do live in Elmhurst, so I do want to say if anybody's in my area and wants to meet up for a walk or a talk or a coffee or something, please don't hesitate to do so, because love connecting with fellow alumni on any platform. So let's get into today. Again, today was about, or is about, I should say, learning how to truly engage with one another in a seemingly distant online environment. And we're all kind of hidden behind these screens like we are today, and it's the phones, it's the computers, whatever it may be. And I wanted to just do a quick poll right now to kind of see where all you were right now. Are you home? Are you in an office? What does your world look like right now? So if you don't mind, it's going to ask you to jump on and take this poll for me. Give it a couple minutes. Oh, geez. It's got about, I'll give it just a few more seconds here. More people are jumping in. Oh my. As I can, you probably can tell from my visual, this doesn't make me very happy when I see numbers like this, but okay. So everybody can kind of see the numbers, and it's staggering. So sad is what it is right now in today's world, that over 90% of us are working from home, and all our contact is probably via phone or video or some kind of just distant connection. And God bless those of you that are in an office. And right now it looks like there's only one of you. So anyways, thank you for that poll. I just wanted level set. That was just kind of a way for me to understand where everybody was. So I'm going to exit out of there real quick. Oops, sorry guys. Click the wrong button there. Let me just stop sharing this real quick. So anyways, that was the sharing the results real quick. And then I'm going to just kind of stop sharing and exit out of this. So let's get to the meat of today. And really what the meat of today is that we're trying to engage with people. And I really want to make sure we start off by understanding there's a very big difference between communicating to somebody and engaging with them. So if we think about it, the good old-fashioned Webster Dictionary says that communication is a process where you are kind of exchanging information, right? It's more of a way for me to just show you something, you read it, I've given it to you, and that's really it. It's you just hearing my words and we're done. But engagement is when we're giving something special attention. We're really trying to make it personal. We're really trying to engage. So right there a minute ago, I wanted to know from you, like, how many of you are at home? How many of you can't be face-to-face? How many of you guys are like really stuck now behind these screens? And so just wanted to make sure you understand there's a big difference between just sending an email or sending a text message to somebody and then changing that up so it engages them and brings them in. And we'll talk about that a little bit more today. So when I ask people, what do you mean, or when they ask me, what do you mean by engage? And I say to them, if you truly, truly, truly want to engage with somebody, and this can be a one-on-one conversation, it can be a group of 100 people, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, though, we have to make sure that the interaction is about them, not you. And I know that's sometimes hard in some of these situations, because even me right now, I'm talking to you and I'm trying to bring you into this. This whole time, though, I want to be cognizant of what you're struggling with, what you're looking for. So I know behind the scenes, Karen is keeping track of questions. So along the way, she's going to kind of try to stop me and say, hey, Deb, we have a great question coming in, or this is really kind of appropriate to talk about now. This isn't just me kind of talking to you and just, babbling on. This really is meant for us to engage and get information back and forth, because this has to be about how I can help you today. So to start, I really wanted to make sure everybody understood that when you're going to enter this world of engagement, there are 4 main keys, and that is listening, empathy, trust, and adaptability. So walking you through each of these individually, the first one is listening. So what's interesting in a virtual world is that we do need to be watching our audience, even if we're on a Zoom call and I can be looking at people and seeing who's watching, who's not watching, who's leaning back, who's leaning forward, who's disconnecting, who's not disconnecting. Also in a smaller group, I know we've kind of got a much larger group today, but if you were doing some kind of video meeting with a small group of 4 or 5 people, really be studying and watching them and listening for hints. You can tell a lot of times in the tone of their voice if they're disconnected. You can tell sometimes if they're engaged when they start asking questions and getting excited. So listening sounds crazy during a virtual setting, but you do need to really open up your ears and be listening for those kind of hints. The other thing is to really watch that body language. Like I was saying, are they leaning back? Are they leaning in? It's really no different than when you're with somebody face to face. And the other thing that's really crazy is to watch that eye contact, right? So somebody is engaged in a conversation with you, they will be looking at the screen and you can tell where they're going. Now, if you see them kind of doing one of these all the time, you kind of wonder what the heck's going on outside the window. And so watch them and be connected and be listening. So it's almost like saying you're listening with your eyes, but also be listening with your voice and their voices and what they're saying to you. Again, this is kind of a larger group, so we can't necessarily have it be interactive every single slide or every single word I say. But during the smaller group meetings that you have, really make sure you're asking solid questions and then you're very actively listening to who they are. Remember, we're trying to engage with people in a virtual world where I can't feel their chemistry. I really can't understand kind of what their feeling is. So I have to get that from asking them a lot of questions and then repeating what they say. So let's say Karen asked me a question. I would say, okay, Karen, I hear you asking me, how do I really listen with my eyes? And then I would, launch into that more. So make sure that you understand that the first element to really engaging with somebody, again, it's not about you. It's about listening to them and really engaging with what they want and what they're saying. The second part of really engaging with somebody is empathy. And I cannot tell you enough at how much empathy has catapulted my career. I really do think that naturally UIC alumni have this because UIC alumni are hardworking, dedicated students that probably had numerous jobs. They were most likely paying for school on their own. And they naturally have this just very strong kind of empathy towards other people. That empathy is, I've walked in your shoes, I know what you're going through. And if I don't, I'm going to ask you questions so that I can, have you bring me into your world. So one of the ways to make sure that you get that empathy set in a virtual environment is to really make sure you know who you're working with, right? So today I'm primarily talking to UIC alumni, right? And I have more empathy than I know what to do with when it comes to alumni, because I did it twice. I did it as my undergrad, and then I went back for my master's. So I understand the culture and the like grit that comes from UIC. So when you're engaging with somebody virtually like this, take the time to really get to know who they are. Is it you're speaking to the National Association of Women Business Owners? Get to know who they are. You can find out a lot about the people that you're working with or you'll be talking to and engaging with by visiting all their social media platforms. Check out their websites, check out Twitter, check out Facebook, check out Instagram, whatever, again, the genre that you're looking at. If it's going to be, a discussion with, a small group of people that you're trying to sell to, try to get to know each of them individually to know where they are and where their minds are. Also, what that does is that empathy is often created because we find some kind of common ground. We all naturally have that common ground of UIC, which is fantastic. But if you're entering into, let's say you're trying to do a sales presentation and you've got 3 people on the call that are all from different walks of life, you've never met them, you don't know who they are, take the time to look through their social media, kind of figure out who they are, so that when you are giving your presentation or your discussion with them, you can start pulling from, wow, so sorry you have to be on this call today, Jim. I didn't realize that, I realize that you're calling in from Hawaii and there's an 8-hour difference. So sometimes those small little connections, those small little common grounds, those small little hints of empathy that you're feeling for somebody makes them want to engage, want to work with you, want to continue a conversation. The other thing I have to say, because it's driving me bananas, and I'm sure it is for you guys too, is that since we're not able to just bump into each other at Starbucks, or we're not able to sit next to each other on the train or the L or the bus and just strike up a conversation, we unfortunately are being forced so heavily right now to use emails and phone calls and these video calls as the only means to communicate. And it feels like the relationship sometimes is rushed. And I want to just tell you to back off and to calm down. You really can't ever rush a relationship. And that's also part of that empathy, is that, yes, there are people that you just boom, connect with instantly and poof, you're off and running. But there's other people who maybe are more guarded, more introverted, want to get to know you at their pace. So even in a virtual relationship, don't rush it. Don't bombard them. Don't push it. Let it happen naturally. And a lot of the ways you can let that happen naturally is to find out where they hang out. So even virtually, people might be in chat rooms, or they might be part of associations. And there's nothing stopping you from following them and kind of watching where they hang out and dropping a quick note. Hey, nice to see you. Again, Karen, we saw each other on the UIC Exchange webinar, and now I see you again at, and maybe it's an association meeting or something else. So again, it's got to just be soft and subtle, like most relationships are. So I really want to stress that part of empathy is letting the relationship just naturally flow. I'm in sales coaching and training. I get that people have to make targets. I get that they have to be filling their pipelines. But if you're too aggressive, if you're too eager to push a relationship too far, too quick, you're going to lose the sale anyway. So just make sure that you're not rushing that relationship. Oh, Karen's giving me the high five. Yes.
So if you don't mind me interrupting with a question. A question has come in. How do you avoid sounding like you weren't background checking someone when bringing something up you noticed from looking at their social media? Does that ever feel weird?
So that's a great question. And again, you have to be intentional and smart about everything you're doing. So absolutely, it could appear to be super creepy if you're looking at somebody's Facebook page when you're having a business discussion about a multi-million-dollar deal, right? That's not how you're gonna connect with them. You're going to say, and they should expect you to be looking on their LinkedIn profile, right? That's a business platform. So if I say, hey, prior to this meeting, I was taking the time to get to know you all. I noticed, John, that you went to UIC. Wow, so did I. So again, you've got to be, it sounds like common sense, and some people have it and some people don't, but just know what lines to cross or what not to. Because yeah, if you all of a sudden say, hey, congratulations to your son, I saw that they won the, state baseball championship this weekend, and they're like, whoa, how do you know that about me? It's gonna look very weird and very stalky and creepy if you pull something off of Facebook. But any business platform, in my opinion, is kind of fair game, because that's what you're there for. You're not there to say, this is me as a business person. So that's how I would navigate that, and just be careful. And again, remember, sometimes it comes up if I'm just having a one-on-one meeting with somebody, I am looking, remember, I'm listening with my eyeballs. I am looking past like their desk and what's behind them. And then I notice things where I'll say like, oh my gosh, I see the UIC, flag in the back. Did you go, or did somebody from your family go to UIC? We talk about that. So that's the differentiator. But yes, do not be a creep and bring up very personal things on a highly professional meeting, because that could backfire quickly on you.
I think it's a very smart approach, though, to say I was researching in order to prepare for this, and that's also puts people in a place of that you care enough to do that. And
and I've done that my whole life. I mean, I've even though I had my trade show company for 25 years, I always looked up their website. I always looked up who they were to say, I need to be prepared. I looked at your website and I noticed that, you go to these 5 trade shows, or I noticed that you've won these awards, or I've noticed. So again, from a business perspective, if it's out there in the business world, use it to your advantage in a tactful way.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep plugging along here. Oh my goodness, trust. Holy smokes. Do not have to even tell you guys how much this is a huge part of life. It's a huge part of everything we do. But it's an absolute critical and crucial thing to have if you're trying to engage. And I say that because you can throw out anything in the world that you want to say, right? Post something, say it. And again, it's just communication. It's just being thrown out there. But if I really want that person to engage with me, they have to look at me and they have to trust me. They have to know that, yep, Deb Venable's a solid person. I know her background. I know who she is. I trust her. And so some of the ways to build that trust virtually is, again, to make sure we're doing the eye contact. If I did this entire presentation and I did have that kind of pompousy, the camera's on me and I'm talking, that kind of thing, that's not going to work. You're going to be like, okay, where's her eyes? I want her to look at me in the eye and I want her to see me. Now, if I was doing one of those kind of interview questions, sure, maybe that's the way that you record it. But on these video calls, you got to make sure that you're looking people square in the eye. If you asked for a video call, you better not be putting yourself on no camera. That is just a complete no. That's going to make somebody go, wait a second, I thought we were doing a video call. Why am I being seen, but you are not? You called for the meeting. So just make sure that you're really understanding that eye contact and people seeing each other really does matter. And part of that trust also is to be presentable and inviting. And so I happen to be a high energy person. Like Karen always teases me and whatnot. And I laugh and I think that's just who I am, right? I want people to feel that energy. And I could have very easily, like right now, I'm doing this presentation standing up, right? It gives me more energy. It lets me use my hands. I'm hands-free. So that starts to build trust too. Because if somebody sees you kind of, sitting there like a, grumpy person that's just trying to get through a presentation and you're not smiling, you're not making eye contact, you're not interacting, you're not inviting them in, then it's not going to work. And I know this sounds so crazy cliche, but anytime you're connecting with somebody one-on-one or in a group, please be professional. Just please have a professional setting. Please dress appropriately. I know we're all working from home, but there is a place in your home that you can strategically just tuck yourself in to make sure there's nothing inappropriate. There's nothing crazy. I mean, I just did, well, I haven't posted it because there's a reason why. I just interviewed a gentleman that I had coached and I had done some sales training with. And he's like, yep, I'm ready, Deb. Got on the call and we're talking. And later on, I looked at the video and I thought, son of a gun, he literally has all his laundry sitting on the bed in the background. And I went, crap, I can't post this now. This is just, So again, when you're trying to build trust, somebody needs to look like you kind of have your act together, that they can trust you to present yourself well here, because it's very similar to when we hire and fire people, right? When we hire them, they always say, oh, your interview is going to be the best you ever seen them. Well, when we're doing this video stuff, we might be stuck behind these screens for a while. So make sure every single time you're interacting, it's professional, inviting. Now, the other thing I have to stress so heavily is, just like you're going to go to their website or you're going to go to their, social media, they're going to do that to you too. So right now, all of you could be stalking me, right? And I'd say go for it because I have nothing to hide. It's all good. But if I did have something to hide, you can expect that engagement to be over within milliseconds. Nobody is going to trust somebody and build a rapport with somebody and really give them time, money, energy if they do see something in your social media that just breaks the bank for them. So make sure that you do have professional, credible social media out there because you are being looked up. So be very, very, very careful. And it doesn't matter if you are still an alumni still a student and not an alumni yet. If you're 18 or you're 88, it doesn't matter. Have a strong professional, form of communication out there for people to look at. So can't stress that enough because it goes both ways.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
So a question has come in about how do you make sure you make eye contact with, if there's more than 5 people on the call or multiple people on the call? Even from the standpoint where your camera may be somewhere else, sometimes if there's a viewing screen and then the camera's to the right, how do you fix that situation or make it feel like you're paying attention to every single person?
Right. So it's very difficult in large situations. Like right now, there's no way with the amount of people I have on this call that I can be like trying to connect and trying to look at people. And even me, I'm looking in the camera and every now and then I look down on the slide and then every now and then I look down on you, Karen, to see if you're waving to me. So you do have to understand the size. But when it comes to those small, intimate groups that maybe less than 8 is kind of my number, I just keep on trying to position those little kind of slides that have people's faces to make sure that I can get my eye somewhere where it does look like I'm looking at them. I just don't want them to ever feel like I'm completely disconnected from them. If you have a setup though where like the camera is over here and you need to be looking at your screen, then you need to almost sometimes say that. I just had another video call on Monday with somebody and the guy said, hey, I'm going to apologize up front. I have a screen here and I have a big one up here. And he said, I look up here all the time to make sure I'm showing you the right slide. So I constantly was looking at him like this, but he told me what he was doing. So I wasn't thinking he was playing the Xbox or some video game up there. I knew he was looking at something. So if you have that fear, then just say that. Just say people like mine, I happen to have a Mac, right? So my camera is right here. But if I had one off to the side and I had to keep on looking at my presentation, just say that so people, again, kind of know where and why your eyes are going where they are.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. The last piece of this is adaptability. So again, harder in large groups, but easily done in the small groups. One of the best ways to make sure that in any of these virtual settings that you are connecting with people is to make sure that each of the interactions are unique, right? Be prepared to go on, change on the fly. So even for this, UIC, I worked with them and Karen said, hey, Deb, I'm going to interrupt you during the meeting if we have questions that come in that are applicable. I want that. I didn't want this to come across just like I'm going to present and then I ask questions. So to build engagement, and again, not just communicate, but to build that kind of interaction, you've got to be able to change on the fly. You've got to be able to go. Now, again, the next one is tricky to do in large groups, but not tricky to do in small groups, is to read the room. All of you are professionals. All of you have been in some kind of conference room before where all of a sudden you just see that one guy all of a sudden now just doodling and you're like, shoot, I'm losing him. He's not paying attention anymore to my presentation. Or even if you're just in like a 1 person to 2 person meeting. Again, if somebody else all of a sudden starts checking their phone, you're starting to lose them. So what I really strongly encourage you to do is keep an eye on that room. And it is okay to take a pause and say, how are we doing? Like, does this make sense so far? The more questions you can ask to a smaller group, and again, I can't necessarily do that on this larger platform, But anything that's like 20 or below, you can take a pause and just say, hey, time out, we're taking a little break, put a lot of information on your plate. Does anybody have any questions? So that's another way to kind of be adaptable, because sometimes you will find out that if you're doing a sales presentation, you've been going down this path, but the group really wants to go down this path. And next thing you know, they start asking questions about this path. And now you're on the path to the sale because you're answering their questions, not just telling them what you thought they wanted to hear. So make sure you watch that. I unfortunately just had the displeasure of being in on a meeting that there was only about 12 of us, and it was supposed to be this brilliant meeting about mental health in a small intimate group. And unfortunately, the speaker that they had brought in, and again, I'm using very general terms so I don't offend anybody, no names here will be said. The woman that started speaking was so cerebral and so out there that of the 12 people, all of a sudden you just saw people turning off their camera. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're talking about mental health, and where are these people going? Now I stayed on and I tried to be engaging. I tried to ask her questions, but she completely, out of the 12 people by the end of it, and it was only like a 40-minute call, she only had 5 of us left. And I just felt guilty for jumping off, but I was like, oh my gosh, she's not reading the room, and there's a super small group of us. Like, she needs to be connecting and saying, does this make sense? Or when does that happen to you? So really, I would say, make sure you're adaptable in any of these conversations. So unless it's a, kind of a stock piece of paper that you have to read, even if you read that, ask the questions, get people to be engaged. And then again, be crazy flexible, go where they want to go. If you remember one of my first slides, it's never about you. It's never about us. It's never about, me. It's always about them. If you truly, truly, truly want to develop relationships with people, virtually, personally, anywhere, don't make it about you. Make it about them. Go where they want to go. If you thought that the conversation was going to go down this path, like I said, and it starts to go down there, then keep going that way. Now, again, eventually you've got to bring it back to some resolution, but go where they want to go, because that's how people do engage. You're listening to me, you're making eye contact with me, I'm feeling your energy, I'm trusting you, you're going where I want to go, you're not just selling me, you're not just trying to cram something down my throat. Now I'm starting to say, yep, this is somebody who I want to be with, this is somebody who I want to stay involved with. So remember, to communicate is just to tell, and then to engage is to get them involved. But to get them involved, you've got to be able to go on the fly and adapt to their needs. Okay. Now, something I want to talk very heavily about is cultural competency. So we obviously live in a very diverse world, every shape, size, form of person is out there. One thing you have to be very careful on, especially during this kind of technical age, is that if we're not able to connect with people and really see them, feel them, get to know them, and we're only seeing and feeling them through screens, cultural competency really, really just has to be blown out of the water. I mean, this is just so unbelievably important. And the first thing is awareness, right? So I am super high energy and I move a mile in a minute, but I do take those couple deep breaths before I'm going to talk to anybody, and I do scan the room. I do scan the person I'm talking to. If I see a picture behind somebody of a beautiful child, right? I need to make sure that I'm culturally competent, and I'm not just assuming that that child is that person's child. Maybe it's their niece or nephew. I need to make sure I'm watching my words, right? So I don't say, oh my gosh, your daughter is so beautiful. Maybe it's not my daughter. Maybe it's my daughter who passed away. Maybe it's my niece. Maybe it's my son. It's one of those things where instead change your words up and to say, oh my gosh, that's a beautiful child behind you. And then stop. If they want to engage and talk about the picture, then let them. But if they don't, then you don't go there. So just be aware, like just really pay attention. And it's crazy because I have 3 teenagers in my life, right? And some days I just want to scream and say, pay attention to what's going on around you. So really, that awareness is got to be, that awareness also though can be snuck into even when you're looking at social media. you can start to see maybe what groups they belong to and what's going on. So just be cognizant of that, right? If you happen to see somebody wearing, a cross and it's around Christmas time, you can ask, is it okay to say Merry Christmas? Things like that. So just be aware. The other thing I'm going to stress very heavily, if you truly want to engage with people of all walks of life, you need to keep your attitude in check. And I say that because I have been in the business world for a long time, and there still are just some people who don't get it. It's their way, the highway. They have a closed mind. They don't know what they don't know, but I call BS on that because the world's too much information out there that we all should know. So keep an open mind when you're talking to people. And again, let it be about them, get to know them, because I'm not going to trust you if you all of a sudden do start using terminology or slang that offends me. Or, it's interesting, and I'll just use this because I'm a woman, right? If somebody says, hey, hun, how was your day? That could dramatically affect me. And I might be like, I'm not your hun, what are you talking about? So just be careful that you're watching your words, watching your language, but keeping an open mind then to what they might be going through and where their background might be taking them. So it's very, very important to just kind of keep that always at top of mind. The other thing that I wanted to bring when it comes to cultural competency is knowledge. And this is something that still infuriates me, is there's really no more excuses. There's no more excuses for people not to know who the audience is that they're talking to. So let's say, for instance, Karen had said, oh gosh, we got a great referral from somebody who wants to talk about engaging virtually, and they come from Nevada and, yada, yada, yada. And she reads their background and she's like, they sound great. And then they get on here and they start talking to UIC alum in different tones that don't match, then we've lost everybody. I mean, that's why from this perspective, I understand how diverse UIC is. I actually praise the big guy upstairs that I'm like, thank you for sending me to a school that let me at a very young age learn so much about so many different people. I mean, Shreya Patel, I got to hunt her down in the Alumni Association someday, but one of my greatest friends, and I learned more about the Indian culture than I ever knew in all my years. And so it's one of those things where the knowledge is out there. There's no reason, though, for you not to know who your audience is. Learn who they are. Google it, research it, figure out what's going to resonate with them and what's not. Figure out where to go and where not to go. So again, I call total BS on anybody who says, oh, I didn't know that UIC population was like that. Well, it's right in the world. You could have just looked it up and seen it. So be very, very careful on all of your presentations, whether it's 1 or 2 people up to 100. Know your audience, be intentional, and keep this cultural competency top of mind. Because really, if you think about all the people you've met in your life, it's that person who does just come to you kind of just, bare skin saying, I am who I am, who are you? Let's just talk and get to know each other, that you do start to develop great relationships with. And that's on a friendship level up to multi-million-dollar deals. So cultural competency is a huge one. So I know we're getting close on time, so I'm going to keep flowing along here. Just wanted to recap again. Please make sure you understand communication, engagement are not the same thing. When these marketing campaigns I hear about and I work with my clients on, and they say, oh, we're going to do an engagement campaign, I sometimes look and say, okay, all you're doing is communicating to them. You're not engaging them. What do they want to hear? What do they want to solve? What's their problem? Then you start to engage with them. So know the difference. Remember, it's always about them. It's not about you. So I challenge all of you tonight at dinner or whatever conversation you're going to have this afternoon, listen and say, how many questions did I ask about them versus me talking? So just try it. It actually feels phenomenal. It's like such a great feeling when you get to learn more and more about people. Remember the 4 skills: listening, empathize, trust, adapt, and be culturally competent. So I know I want to leave you guys with some real takeaways though today. I don't want this just to be me, blah, 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 right? And why I say that is because I am living this world just like you are. And I'm going to give you some of the tricks that are working awesome for me. So number 1, there's still the good old-fashioned phone call. There's still the text message, the emails, the social media posts, the video calls. Those things are still going on. They were, they are now, and they will forever in the future. What I just want to make sure you understand though is my opinion on all these is, please use text messaging to be a quick follow-up, a quick check-in, something brief. It's absolutely, in my opinion, inappropriate for somebody to send me some long text message about some sales deal or whatever when I'm like, okay, text messages should be fast and quick. The phone calls should be more personal. That's when you are engaging with someone, you're talking, you want to work with them. Emails, I've always thought that emails are more for, I'm going to convey a message. I'm giving you communication, I'm giving you details. So try to keep those separate. Try to understand that if I'm going to engage with you, yes, I might send you a long email on my product or my machine that the details of my machine. And then I'm going to call you and we're going to talk about it. And then maybe I do send you a quick text that just says, hey, got any questions from our presentation yesterday? That's it. And then of course the video calls, which is kind of what we're discussing today. So the video calls, I also want to make sure you understand though, is they will always be here in the future now. I don't see them going away, but I do pray and hope that we can get some regularity back to our life. And what I mean by that is I am having a lot of cups of coffee with people. It's Chicago, it's beautiful outside, it's nice and sunny. You can social distance, we can stay, a couple feet apart, not a problem. I definitely encourage you to try to get out on the nice days and grab a cup of coffee, grab a sandwich and sit in a park. That really does start to build relationships. Even with my clients, I will often say, what do you think about me stepping by your office and we'll go take a walk? And they're like, well, that's kind of weird. But then they go, God, that'd be great. And then you can talk and walk. Again, keep the distance, keep the separation, just walk with them. The other thing I'm going to tell you that I have been doing personally, which has really been awesome, is I've been writing letters. Again, I'm asking for permission. Hey, I'd love to send you something. I'd like to pop something in the mail. Where can I send it to? I don't ask, what's your home address? I say, where can I send it? And usually they'll give me an address. Whatever that address is, up to them. And I write letters. And it's cool for them to sometimes be like, oh my gosh, Deb, this is really cool. Mail them a book, same thing. And the other thing for engagements is don't hesitate to ask for referrals during these times. Don't hesitate to say, hey, look, we're all trying to grow our business. We're all trying to, connect with new people. Who do you think I'd be a good fit for? Like, who do you think would, I could help or could help me? So remember that. The next section then is this group, again, too big, thank God for UIC. I know it's a big group, so it's awesome to see so many people today, but it's near impossible for me to send pre-meeting notes to, 100 and some people, right? But if you've got that 20 and under meeting that you're going to do virtually, send them a pre-meeting note. Can't wait to see you on Friday at noon for our sales presentation. Can't wait to see you, Thursday at 3 o'clock for the product demo, whatever it is. Connect with them prior and say, are there any questions I can answer while we're together? This just happened to me recently. I had the honor of seeing a Navy fighter pilot pilot do this amazing speech. And he did. He sent us a note saying, hey, in the interest of time and being able to connect with you more intimately, what personal questions do you have for me? I'll try to address them during my talk. If not, I'll connect with you afterwards. Thought it was a really brilliant touch. The second thing is to try to get people engaged with you, is to do that poll. I did truly want to know, out of the 100 people that we've got today or whatever it might be, how many really are stuck behind these screens, or how many are doing kind of a hybrid or what it might be. So know where your audience is and where they live and where their pain points are by taking the polls. Now, my friend Catherine, who's I'm probably out there listening, can't stand when you do icebreakers, right? It's not her thing. And I say that I don't like the cheese ball icebreakers, but I do like level setting. And what I mean by that is, all of us are working from home or a library or somewhere else besides an office. We can't be in the same room together, but we need to be. And so that room is your mind, right? And so often when I'm meeting with a smaller group, I will do some kind of level setting exercise where sometimes I will say, hey guys, we're here today to talk about the fact that you guys haven't hit your sales targets in 3 months in a row. I just want everybody to kind of take a break and think about the last big win that you did have. Like just for a second, take a break. And so what that does for me in a virtual setting is it makes them all go, okay, all right, I got to get my mind to where Deb's about to take us. So yes, sometimes cheesy icebreakers work, sometimes they don't. Know your audience. If I was doing some kind of e-learning for kids, I probably would do some cheesy, icebreaker to get them fired up. But if not, please take the time prior to a very important meeting to level set and get everybody in the same room. And that means get everybody in the same mind frame. We're talking today about the fact that this machine could save you thousands of dollars or whatever it might be, then get everybody in that mindset. The last thing I wanted to show you, I'm going to skip send a gift because I'm going to show you the next slide and then wrap things up, is do make sure during the larger, during the small, more controlled environments that you can do video conferencing through, you do take that pause. You do check in. You do ask them, is this working? Is this resonating with you? Am I hitting what you wanted to talk about today? Be vulnerable and ask. And if you get no responses back, it is okay to say, all right, I'm not feeling this. Like, no one's asking questions, no one's interacting. Like, I'm feeling that I didn't satisfy what we came here today to solve. So take those pauses and be vulnerable about it and check in. So the last thing I wanted to show you was just a quick couple things that I've done. Send them gifts, right? If you know you're going to interact with a couple people, go ahead and do a little Starbucks gift card. Hey, Anthony, sending you a Starbucks gift card, stop by Starbucks, let's talk at 8:30, I'll have mine, right? So then you both show up and you both have your Starbucks virtually, and it's just fun to do. I recently just did the Panera thing with some clients of mine where I saw this flyer and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'll go ahead and buy them all lunch, because we were going to do originally we were going to do like a 10:30 meeting. I bumped it to 11:30 and said, hey, let's bump it to 11:30. I'll buy you guys lunch. So I sent everybody lunch, and then I showed them this little, blurb about, hey, look what happened. We're all eating lunch together, but we also donated money, to Meals on Wheels. So it's just a cool way for them to be like, oh, that was awesome, Deb. Now they're eating, and food always makes people happy, gets them in a good spirits. So it was a neat way to connect. The next one that I'm showing you over here, oh my goodness, if you have any opportunity to really wow a client or really want to engage with somebody, this was a gift that was sent to me. And I was like blown away, absolutely adored it, loved it. Right on the get-go, it says, let's connect, right? And we were basically, what it is an association I belong to was unfortunately had to cancel their July kickoff party, is what it was. So normally we get together, normally we have this kickoff party, we had to cancel it. But instead, they sent us these packages. I opened it up. There's 2 engraved Moscow mules. There's enough to make, I shouldn't say Moscow mules, they were Kentucky mules, with a great little card basically saying, miss you, want to connect with you, can't wait to see you, at this conference. And so what was cool is they timed it that we all got these boxes right before we were going to have this video call. So next thing you know, we're all like, woo, hey, we're cheersing each other, and saying hello. Now, let me just put one caveat in here. Smart organization. They knew their people. They knew their background. They were more culturally competent than they know what to do with. Some people don't drink. Those people didn't get the alcohol. And they actually were very respectful and like, yes, thank you for not sending me alcohol, because I don't drink. So even if you're going to send a gift, make sure it's appropriate. Make sure that you're, again, being confident and intentional in who you're connecting with. So just wanted to show you some ways at the end there to really jazz up some of these meetings. Maybe someday, Karen, we can do another UIC event where we can send some cool boxes out to people, have a good time. And that was it. So again, I'll open it up for some questions and answers, and then we'll wrap things up.
Great. Thank you so much, Deb. This is so fun. And as you know, I already looked up that company when you mentioned this before. So thank you for sharing all of your energy and enthusiasm with us. We do have a few questions that have come in. Earlier, we had a question about your opinion on Zoom backgrounds and how you feel about them versus the templates we can use.
Great question. Okay. I get distracted by that, like when you see somebody puts one of those Zoom backgrounds. I would much prefer if you are just by a blank window or a blank, kind of a wall or something. So I would say to be careful on that if it works. Like right now, when I try to use it, if you look at my background, I've got this, kind of decoration. it comes across all jaggedy, and it's so distracting. It's just better for me to do this. So I would say that you've got to err on the side of just making it look as professional as you can. And if you do notice that you pick up your arm and you lose it, remember different colors on those things matter. Sometimes like you'll lift your arm up and then your whole arm will be empty and only you see your hand. Just practice with them to see which one works the best. I actually have seen some very nice ones where people have put like their logo behind them. And again, as long as it's professionally done and I don't look like a robot in front of it, then I think that they can work brilliantly. The best way to do it is just to get a green screen. If any of you actually have a green screen behind you, then you can put whatever background you want up and it looks phenomenal.
Great, thank you. The next question is, do you think we need to adapt to screen-based business forever? And if one day we need to go back to face-to-face style, what are the downsides that we should expect?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that you can Google this, but the human being needs human touch. At the end of the day, we will not evolve or evolve, I should say, as a society if we can't get back to like having some kind of physical touch with one another. And I'm not, suggesting massive bear hugs, but just handshakes, fist bumps, something. So I think all of us are hoping that we can get back to that someday. But many businesses have realized that they can save a lot of money by not having people travel. So I think that the days of the video are going to stay strong out there. I do think, just kind of general rules of, gentleman agreement kind of things will come up. I will say though that ask permission and ask what your audience wants, right? So sometimes I will say, hey, is it okay instead of doing a Zoom call, we just do a video call? Because right now I have this crazy light and I'll show you guys, like I turn it off and this is what I look like. I turn it on and there's my bright face. Oh my gosh. So by the end of the day, sometimes my eyes just want to like bug out. So I will say, can I just do a call? Can we just talk on the phone? And then I'll go take a walk. So I guess I would say that the video stuff is not going to go away. Even the trade show industry now is turning into all those virtual, trade show things. But the more you can still infuse any kind of personal touch or personal engagement, the better. And then when we go back to doing things face to face, I think there's going to be a definite, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a phasing effect, right? It's going to be pretty rare that people are just packing into McCormick Place again and having thousands of people there. One tip I will tell you, if any of you do start to go face to face again, they're selling these bracelets that are red, green, and yellow. And red is, I don't want you near me. I had to come here because I'm at this face-to-face conference, but I'm wearing red. Please don't come near me. More than likely they'll have the mask on kind of thing. Yellow is, it's okay for you to come near me. Maybe we elbow bump. Maybe we do something like, yeah, it's okay. And then green is, give me a hug. Like touch me, feel me, give me a hug. So I've gone to a couple events like that and we all wear our masks. And then once we're sitting, we take them off because usually it's like eating or something like that. But this has been awesome. These bracelets have been a really nice way to avoid the awkwardness of saying, can I shake your hand? Or can I get close to you? Because, my husband and I were just talking the other day, like how weird it is in the beginning of COVID when we would take a walk and there'd be like another couple walking towards us. And then all of a sudden you'd walk like you're avoiding each other. And we were both like, this doesn't feel good. Like we want to say hi. And so as we start to get back to face-to-face environments, I think be smart and come up with something like a pin, a bracelet, whatever, that lets people know I'm okay to give a hug to. I'm okay for you to stand there, but let's just talk like this. Or I'm really sorry. I needed to come here today because I got to get this information, but maybe I have my sick mom at home that I have to stay away from you, so that nobody blackballs that person for saying, oh gosh, why are they sitting in the corner? They must be antisocial, yada, yada. No, I'm being respectful of you because I see the red and I'm going to wave to you and I'm going to acknowledge you. So I do think that's going to be something that'll be very prevalent when we start to go back to slowly introducing people to people again.
It's really interesting because I think pre-pandemic people would have appreciated that. There's a certain group of people that don't. I'm a hugger. There's a lot of people that are not. And so would have appreciated having that.
Well, and going back to cultural competency, because I'm a hugger too, but thank God for UIC, you do learn that some cultures don't do that. Like you're not hugging me. So know who your audience is.
Yeah.
Can't stop repeating that. Yeah.
No, it's great. Another question. When engaging with 10 or more people on a group video chat, how do you ask for feedback or discussion? The person goes on to say, a general question to the group usually leads to silence if no one wants to talk first. Should you single out an individual for a question and try and build on that, or what advice might you have?
Okay, so number one, I would strongly advise doing that. If it's a smaller group, not 100-some people, but 10, 20, strongly advise sending out a quick email before the meeting just to have some of those questions ready, right? And then you could even say, hey, Anthony, you had asked me earlier about this. So sometimes all it takes is for one person to be kind of signaled out to start talking, and then everybody jumps in. The second thing I would strongly push is to do some of those polls, like the quick poll I did. That's always a great conversation starter, because then people feel safe. People share when they feel safe, right? I don't want to look like the idiot that asks a stupid question. I don't want to look like the idiot that doesn't know the answer. So sometimes those polls, since they're anonymous, you ask it, you see what the answers are, then you can address it. And then usually somebody will fess up and say, oh, wow, there was 30 of us on the call and 23 of us all had that opinion too. Now I feel safe to say, okay, let me ask my question. So those are just a couple tips on it. The other thing is, if you haven't done any of those and you are launching into just this, kind of question, and you're kind of waiting to see of the audience that comes forward, I would normally always try to have like plant somebody in the room. You weren't asked there by accident. Somebody invited you. So it's not bad to call that somebody out. So let's say you were doing a demo on a product that you have, right? Who invited you to that meeting in the first place? So it's not bad to say, hey, John, you invited me to this meeting. Here's one of my questions. And if nobody has anything, you can refer back to John and say, hey, John, you had told me that the group is interested in this. And so that's another way to kind of try to get the barriers open a little bit, because you don't just randomly show up to a video call. Normally someone's brought you in for a reason. So default to asking that person some direct questions to get the conversation started.
That's really good advice. I think we have time for one last question.
Okay.
So a person asked the question about what advice, and you touched upon this a little bit, but maybe if you can expand, what advice do you have for teaching a group that is in a different racial or socioeconomic status than you are?
It goes back to that slide of just knowing your audience and doing your research. And then also there's so many small ways to connect with people. So great, right? Let's say I'm presenting to a group that's maybe struggling right now because they're losing their home. Like, let's say I'm a mortgage person, right? And they're all losing their homes, and I'm here to help them try not to. Okay, it's kind of common sense, but it goes back to that know your audience, know what to do. I'm not going to have a picture of my Lamborghini hanging up in the back, right? So I would say if they do, then you should run as fast as you can away from that person, because they clearly don't have any insight or any intelligence into the world around them. So I would say that if you are going to connect with a group, find that commonality, find the grit or that common ground that's somewhere built in there. Because people do like to buy and work and engage with people that they feel connected with and feel that they understand them. So I would just say be cautious, don't overdress, don't be dressing something crazy, or, again, if I was to give I happen to be Catholic. If I was going to give a speech to, a Jewish group or whatnot, maybe I don't wear a cross. I mean, it's just it seems like common sense, but you'd be surprised at how much common sense doesn't exist out there. So I would just really say, if you're on this call today, clearly you have some common sense. Take that pause, take that breath, look at your audience, be intentional, and say, if this is the message I'm trying to convey, what's everything around this message that I need to convey? I need to dress more modestly. I need to make sure my background isn't crazy. I need to do, whatever it might be. So that's how I would say to connect with that. Also, don't force something, right? If I'm not going to put a Hanukkah, symbol up behind me if I really don't know, that's not the religion I follow. And So don't force it either. People are going to read through fake stuff instantly. And I'm the biggest person to always just ask questions. If I don't understand something about your race or your religion or your culture or whatever it might be, sometimes I just ask, I'm not familiar with that holiday, or I'm not familiar with that. Can you tell me more about it? So the strongest thing I would do is, if you're asked to give a presentation in front of that kind of group, again, talk to whoever brought you in for that presentation and say, tell me as much as you can about the audience I'm going to present to. Tell me everything and anything that you know, and what do I need to be saying and doing to help them? It's about them, not you. What can I be saying and doing to help them get benefit out of today's talk?
In many ways, I think it's a new and heightened way of self-awareness, and just from your background to your overall being. And so, Deb, thank you so much for this incredible discussion.
I'm going to say, any of you that have children out there who are influence on children, please, 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 please start teaching them that awareness now. Because honestly, like, they are our hope. Like, they are our hope to get things kind of right the ship. And the more we can teach these kids of our today to just be aware, be open-minded, then hopefully we'll be off and running generations after generations.
Well, thank you again, Deb, and thank you for this wonderful presentation. We're so proud that you're a double alumna, and just I didn't mention it earlier, but Deb also serves as our chair of our Alumni Career Services Committee within the Alumni Association. So we're doubly and triply grateful for all of her time and talent. So thank you for spending this time.
And I am very open. Here's my information. You guys can get this. Please connect with me. Please talk to me if you have any questions at all.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that too. Please join us tomorrow for our next Alumni Exchange event, which will be on September 17th at noon Central Standard Time, featuring the College of Medicine at Peoria's Dr. James Barnett and a panel of experts as they discuss the myriad of challenges facing healthcare in rural settings as they present rural health concerns and hopes. Like all of our programs, you can find out more information at go.uic.edu/alumni exchange. But of course, please be on the lookout for that quick survey that I mentioned at the beginning. Thank you so much again to you, Deb, for all of your time and talent. We're so very grateful. Thank you to all of you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again at the UIC Alumni Exchange. Have a great rest of your day.